Well, good morning, church. My name's Kenny, if I haven't met you yet, and I'm one of the pastors on our team here. And this week, if you were here last Sunday, you heard a bit about the Matthew 25 challenge. And this week, many people within our church, hundreds, participated in the Matthew 25 challenge. And that consisted of getting to know what it would be like to experience global poverty on a kind of Americanized level. So many people slept on the floor. I think it was Tuesday night or Tuesday during the day. There was no coffee. So some of you still have a little caffeine hangover from missing coffee one day this week, or and just drinking water that day. Or we left our laundry baskets a little fuller, or a little less full rather, as we wore the same thing for multiple days. And so today we're going to wrap up that challenge. And if you didn't participate throughout the week, or you didn't know about it, there's an opportunity now for you to participate in it and get on board. All of us together. So everybody received a handout on your way in, and it has one of these in it. There's a couple of different ones, and so if you have that, pull that out, but don't open it up just yet. We're going to take a look as we conclude the Matthew 25 challenge. We're going to take a look at a video that our partners at World Vision have put together for us to help us get a better picture of what's going on in the world. So I want you to take a look at the screen and participate, read along, and kind of follow the instructions and see if God doesn't speak to your heart in this moment.
Over the next few minutes, we will be experiencing what it means to love the last, the lost, and the least. When you came in, you were handed a pamphlet. Have that ready. Let's begin by reading Jesus' words in Matthew 25 out loud together. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. This is real life. At times it can feel overwhelming, or sad, or even scary. And you know what? That's okay. Because in the midst of sick days and big changes and tough calls, there's love too, right there where you least expect it. It's the love we're already showing, the love we're called to have for the least of these. Just like you do in your family, when you care for your sick child, when you serve a new kid at school, when you slow down from your busy day and look for ways to encourage a person in need, just like you already do. Today, we'll open our eyes to see ourselves, our family, and the world through the eyes of Jesus. Are you ready? Before we begin, take a moment and answer a few questions. As you do, invite God to speak to you. If it's helpful, you can write your answers on the back of the card you were given on the way in. Inside the card you're holding, you'll find the story of one of 3 very special children. Open the card and let's get to know them together.
Hi, my name is Ekai. I'm 12 years old and I live in Kenya.
Hi, my name is Ali. I'm 13 years old and I live in Lebanon.
Hi, my name is Cheru. I am 5 years old and I live in Kenya.
Take a moment now and get to know the child on your card a little better. Once you've finished reading about them, spend a moment praying for them. The child you just prayed for is a beloved child of God, just like you and I are, just like our own family members are. In Matthew 25, Jesus refers to his brothers and sisters with a clear invitation. Feed them, clothe them, give them something to drink. Don't let them be alone. In a word, love. Jesus wants us to love our families just like you're doing now. But his unique invitation is to expand who we include when we think of family. It's easy to love your family. It's harder to love people you see around you. It's even harder to love people you've never met in a place you've never been. And yet, these are the ones Jesus calls us to serve in Matthew 25. His invitation is not to guilt or shame, but a call to loving action for the least of these. Today, hope can come alive as we respond to Jesus' invitation. Sponsoring a child through World Vision helps your family live out Matthew 25. And taking the first step is easy. First, open the last flap on your card and fill out your information. Then take the completed card to the lobby. There you'll get to choose the child that you and your family will sponsor. Today, your family could change a life by sponsoring a child. You just might find that your life changes in the process. Hope comes alive when we respond to Jesus' call to love the least of these.
A number of years ago, when my daughter was born, my wife and I made the decision to sponsor a child that was born around the time my daughter was, because we wanted my daughter to grow up with a name, not just the story and the stats of what happens around the world and how blessed we are as a country and as a people, but a name of somebody who needs help that she can pray for. And so a couple of weeks ago, my son is 18 months old. We picked up a kid from Lebanon and chose to sponsor that child that has around the same birthday as my son. So that both of my kids will grow up with a name, Maria from Brazil and Ratish from India. Two kids that my family will grow up connecting with through letters and all the different stuff that World Vision does to help us connect with those kids. Because for me, that was important to tell the story, that as a parent, they get it, that they know the world is bigger than them. And so I want to encourage you, who's the name? What's the name for your kid to know? What's the name for you to know, be praying for around the world as we continue to push forward on ending global poverty? As a church, we're called to do that in Matthew 25. So as the tithe and offering team takes their place and they begin passing the bags, if you're new here, we're just grateful you're here. We don't expect anything from you. This is a time in our service where our members and regular attenders give back, and many of them have given online at a kiosk on their way in, and we thank you for your generosity. But this is that time of year we also talk generally about a Christmas offering, and we at Crossroads, every Christmas, our Christmas offering goes to missions and goes to things outside of these walls. And one of those, of course, is World Vision. And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. But I mentioned India a minute ago. And the kids that we have left over that are still at all of our campuses left to be sponsored at all the sponsorship tables around our campus, many of them are kids from India, and specifically kids from northern India. Now, that may sound familiar to you because 20 years ago, our church adopted the Bhojpuri. The Bhojpuri are a people group of 120 million people in northern India that it's been our goal to reach with the gospel as a church. And so we send trips and we send funds and we work with the church planners there and we help every way we can. And so part of the Christmas offering, $50,000 of the $250,000 goal, will go to the Bhojpuri people, not just to the people, but to our partners that are working on the ground there. And their goal is to see another 18 million people come to Christ in the coming years. And so we want to support that. We want to be a part of that. And we want to continue to spread God's word and provide for the resources and learning centers and food and meeting the needs of people so that they're open to hearing about the God who loves them. Very much like what we did this week with Matthew 25, knowing about what's going on in the world outside of our little bubble. One of the other big things within that $250,000 Christmas offering is campus development. And we've had somebody ask the question the other day, and that it's really for new campus development. It's not just, we're not improving, like I said, these walls. The goal is to expand the footprint of Crossroads and specifically spread the gospel of Christ. It's not really about Crossroads, but that's just the avenue that we get to do that through right now. And we want to start more campuses around the Permian Basin and more of these towns and cities that maybe you work in, maybe you're driving through. And as you do, pray for those cities because we're seeking God's guidance on exactly where that is. And maybe that's on the other side of Odessa, or maybe it's 100 miles away in another town. We don't know what's next, but we know that God is going to lead, and we're going to have a clear guidance before we take those final steps. As our church is geared up, as we prepared, as we constructed an infrastructure to do these campuses around the Permian Basin, we're going to continue to do that in faith that God will lead clearly on what's next. So I want to encourage you, if this is your church, to pray alongside of us for what's next.